So this is just my take on resin printing, and for basic for beginners. Now, if you've been doing it for a while, it's just all common sense, yeah. But for the home user, I would say that there's 3 types that's price point available, I would say. So these are the 3 types you can buy for your home. Now, you have a laser one, and this fires the laser at a moving mirror, which then cures the resin. And as you can see, it comes out the build plate that way. You've got DLP, which is supposed to be the best out of the lot for what we do, but there's only a couple of machines available for the home user, and that just projects the image you want to cure on this is the bottom of your vat here, and this is a model coming out. It projects the image onto a mirror and fires it up. And the projector, or the bulb in it, is supposed to last longer than the LCD ones, which everyone uses. So, and the final one on the right there, it uses basically a phone screen. As a motherboard there with some cobs on. I've met 16 ultraviolets on there. And what it does, it's I think they call it masked SLA. So it on here will be your screen, or on, I think this is a bit wrong way, because it fires, this black will be your screen. You will put a picture up of what you want to mask. The ultraviolet light fires through and cures the unmasked resin. Then it hops it up 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 mil, and then that repeats it again. So what it does, you have your phone screen there, you put your picture up, it fires the ultraviolet light through it and cures what's not masked, and just moves it up through there. And you can get some good accuracy. But on the DLP, even though you get a higher pixel, you get a sharper object, because on an LCD screen, you get light bleed from pixel to pixel. So when they say it's 0.5 pixel, 0.5 pixels and 0.35, it really doesn't always work like that. This is just a thing that I got about accuracy, and basically what it's saying, it's difficult to compare specs from different printer brands. So you got the Sonic Mini 4K and the Elegoo Mars, and they're both pixel size of 0.035, not 0.1 or that, 0.035. Yeah, but the Mars, you get higher quality because the Sonic Mini, the screens are different and it goes through glass. So when you're choosing a printer, you can't always go on the pixel size. Really, you need to go online and get some reviews and get some real world comparisons. There is All3DP, we'll put this in a link. There is some Best Buy resin printers. This is one of the latest. It's in dollars. We pay a lot more than this. For some reason, Americans get it so cheap. But you'll see that the Elegoo comes out quite well, and the Frozen. Creality have got one in there, but it's pricey. But I think that also the budget one they always go for. So the Mars, it seems a good all-rounder, good price, good all-rounder. But the cheap and cheerful, which I got, so there we go. Very hard to get hold of now. I think they've phased them out. It was $99 in the US for Mars 2s, but you can't get them in the UK at the moment. So, right, we'll go on to the resin printer. This is my printer. Now, you will see that the case, this is to cut the UV light, the light from outside curing the resin. So ideally, you want to keep your resin printer in a dark cupboard. That way you can leave your resin in your vat endless. It's the same as keeping it in a bottle. I leave it in for months and there's nothing. And the case is, this is green. It's a rare one because most of them are orange or red. And it just cuts the ultraviolet light from outside coming in. But you'll see fingerprints on it because resin printing is a little bit messy. If you get one little bit on your finger, it will transfer. There's no way you can keep it spotless. Well, I have not found it, unless you're super scrupulous or whatever they call it. So anyway, that's a Mars 2. All you've got on the front here is a small LCD screen that gives you your menus and a memory stick. Put your files on your memory stick, plug it in the front. When it boots up, you'll have your screen now. So this is the top taken off. We've got the resin vat. On this one, it's green. Now, there is resin in that because I was printing it probably a couple of weeks ago. But I keep it in there and it's absolutely fine if it's kept, light is kept out of it. And all you've got on this top style is 2 thumb screws, slacken them off and slide the resin tray out. Now, how much you fill it up, some have marks, others you get to know. See, I know to go to the top of the screws and then I should be good because the plate has to come all the way down to the bottom. So you've got the volume of the plate in the resin. So you don't want to fill it too high because otherwise once that goes over the edge, that's a mess. And all you have is 1 lead screw at the back. And obviously you've got 1 stepper motor inside and it just moves the Z. It's not like an FDM where you've got your 3 or 4 steppers. You've got 1 stepper, up a lead screw, and that's it. It just lifts it up on the Z. On this type, the Eligo, you've got 1 bolt at the top. So you slide it on the gantry, you slacken the bolt off, slide it on, tighten the big nut there. That is it. To level, you have to level your plate before you start anything. So you remove your resin vat, you undo, on this certain model, you undo the front screw and the side screw, and this is on a ball joint. So it's all floppy then. You'll have, as on the menu there, you can have, I think this one's got a homing menu. So you put a sheet of paper on your bed. That is in lieu of the on the bottom of the resin tank is a little plastic plate, plastic film called a FET film. So you put the piece of paper in lieu of that FET film, put it on, you drop this down to home it, sit it on the piece of paper there, tighten these 2 screws up, and jobs are good. It should not need adjusting unless you're heavy-handed and you knock the plate. But I haven't adjusted mine, touch wood, for a long time. Now this is a well-worn screen. You can see the scratches on it. John's got a protector on his. I didn't have it. Didn't have protectors at the time, so my screen is a bit scratchy, but it's not affecting the prints. And all it is this is your screen, and it's just a bit of tape holding it in. And your ultraviolet lights from the cobs underneath fire through this, and whatever is masked on here, or whatever's not masked on here, will get cured by the ultraviolet light going from here through the mask, curing the bottom first layer of the resin. Cures it, and you set a time. The modern resins about 2.5 seconds. Cured, it will pull it up and it will bring it back down. It will do the same process, 2.5 seconds exposure, pull it up, bring it down 2.5 seconds, and it goes on and on and on until your print finally creeps out of the resin tank very slowly. Now you can't tell if your print's going to be any good until basically you nearly finish your print. So it's not like FDM where you can just look at the bed. On resin, you just have to wait and see and hope you've got a good one. Yeah, so that's resin in the tank. Now, on the bottom of the tank is a thin plastic film called a FEP film. Not sure what it stands for. It's probably some big, long, fluted name. Now, to change the FEP, because they do damage, they scratch their consumables. What you have to do is, if you look along the top edge here, you'll see all these screws. Yes, there's loads of them. And then you've got top screws as well. There's some other screws here as well. So basically you separate it, and then you have to take all these screws out to take the frame out. You put a new piece of FEP film on, and you go through all the procedure again of putting it all back in there. Only takes you about an hour. Lots of screws. I would advise getting a hex driver that's like a screwdriver, like they use in remote control cars. So, because there's a lot to use with an Allen key on there. The back of the printer, there's not a lot there. You've got your power switch, and the power is, use a brick on these, and it has got a power rating on there. But the voltage is to the brick, not the machine. There's no consumption though of power, so I'm not sure what consumption it uses. I'm told it's not a lot. This is the boot up screen. As you can see, it's powered by G2 because G2 box, a slicer for it, makes the motherboards. So they've got it sewn up there. This is what the screen on an Eddy comes in. Tools, and the tools you would have settings for moving the Z-axis, homing. System, you can update the system via USB, and you can update the firmware. And then when you press print, did I take a picture? Yeah. So this is gone into the print screen. You can't see it very good, but this here is a picture, a small picture of the model that's going to be printed. These are just what's on the the USB stick. So I don't know why they're on there, but ignore them. All you need is this picture. When you highlight it, you click on the highlight it, and it will come up with an arrow. This is the selection. Select that. It'll come up with a picture of what you want to print. Just press go, and it goes away, and that's it. End of. Now, the reason that's on the top there, because I'll show you the workflow I use, but as soon as I take out the print, the lid goes back on regardless. So because of the exposure to any light. Now this is in a larder. I have put an extractor fan in the back there, but I don't use it because it doesn't smell that much. Not to me anyway. Probably I'm old and I've lost my sense of smell. But it sits in the cupboard. I have an extractor if need be. And below this is, on the next shelf down, is my two FDM printers. When they're on, they generate the warmth to warm the cupboard up, to warm this printer up. So win-win-win on that one. So that is basically resin printing in a nutshell. You slice your print, make sure this is attached. You put your USB stick in, you press print, and then you leave it in the hands of the print gods, whether it comes out or not. So that is that. But if we go, the next important thing about printing is actually washing the prints and curing them. Now, you can go down the route, which I started off getting a nail curer, where you use ultraviolet light and you put a turntable under it and you wash your prints in Tupperwares full of IPA. You can do it, or you can just spend a few quid and buy a wash and cure station to match your printer. This one is the perfect match for my printer, and I think this does the Mars 3 as well. The Mars 2 and the Mars 3, very similar models, just the Mars 3's got a 4K screen, mine's a 2K. But yeah, that's the wash and cure, and as you can see, there's not a lot to it. You've got, we'll probably get a closer, next one, let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. So the lid on the first one, the bank at the back there is ultraviolet light, and the lid is to stop you getting blasted in the eyeballs with ultraviolet light. So this is the inside of it. This in the middle is a turntable, magnetic, and you'll see in a minute on the wash, what do you call it, container has got an impeller in the bottom with a couple of, I don't know which one's got the magnets on, or they might both have magnets, and this is what spins the impeller in your wash tank. Very basic. You've got your ultraviolet bank of lights at the back there. Switch wise, it's nothing to it. You've got, switch it on, you've got mode, you can have lights, or you can have wash. You can't have both. So if you're washing, you have your wash container on there, you don't need the lid on. But to use the ultraviolet lights, you must have the lid on. It won't work otherwise. Time, obviously plus and minus, stop and start. There's nothing to it. The back of it, exactly the same as the other one. Power switch and a plug-in for your brick. That is it on that. Right, oh yeah, this is the container that sits on it. Now, you can get water-based resin. John uses it, and all you put in here is a bit of detergent and some water. I use, it's called Anycubic Eco, but are any of them Eco? I don't think so. So this is IPA in here. I put 3 litres of IPA in. I buy it in 5 litre jobs, and I use IPA for washing. We go on to the next. In my tub here, I've got a basket, and that is it. I can take my prints off my plate and place them in a basket, or I can sit my plate on the top. So the basket is in there, the plate sits on the top, and I wash especially all the little bits and bobs that you want to wash. I cure it with the plate. There you go. That's the plate sitting on, it sits perfectly on the top there because they're a matched pair. This goes inside, and it on the bottom could be all your little bits and bobs, and then they go in for a wash. Just a bit close up of it, but you can see, oh, you could have that on, bits on there and bigger bits sitting on the bottom. That is the impeller. That's the bottom of my tank, and that's a small impeller that goes round and just swirls it around and hopefully tries to get in all the nooks and crannies and wash all the excess resin away. Well, there's the front turned on. So if you look there on the count, you've got count how much time. The light bulb obviously means it's on UV light. So you've got mode, time and that. And if you go to next one, it's got the wash cycle. So, and all you do is press. I use near enough all the time, so like 3 minutes for the wash. I don't know if doing it any longer makes much difference, actually. Right, now one important thing is this little card here is a bit of a lifesaver. If you go to print especially if you left the resin tank for a little while. If you use a playing card, you put it in the resin tank and you gently scrape the bottom to see if any bits have been left cured on your plate. Because if they are, when the plate comes down, it could force the resin into the fat and you get a hole, and then you start leaking resin, and then it's one big mess. So get a playing card because it's pretty gentle. Also, you can mix up your resin. If you've had the resin in a vat for a couple of weeks like I do, it will mix it all back up again. So get yourself one of them. And these are the trays I use, sweet corn trays, I think, out of Asda. And a bit of kitchen rolling. You go to your machine, you scrape it around, and then you just go straight into the tray. No mess. These are a couple of things that you need. Paintbrush, just to get excess resin off if you've got some there. If you've got to put the resin back in the bottle, there is a funnel that goes with this. It's a funnel and filter. You should filter it out in case you're putting back into the bottles any bits or bobs. This was my idea. CD on a stand, and then the lights at the back will shine up as well as from the top, because I'll show you in a minute, the plate that comes with the machine sits right on the bottom. So the only light you will get is from above. And I thought, I don't know if it works. But anyway, also, look, all the resin on there, you might as well mess that up, make another one. So I just printed a little stand, so that gives it halfway up. These are another couple of excellent tools if you get into trouble. Now, you might get bits fall off, and then they get stuck to the bottom of the fat. Now, you can cure the whole bottom layer and then lift that off in one piece. Or what I like to do is pour the resin out, find the bits that are stuck, and these are palette knives from the craft shop, and they've got a lovely rounded thin, very thin edge. If you just run your finger underneath the fat, you will find it, you push an edge up and this will slide under. You don't want to be digging your fat, but this will slide under, and you can take any loose bits that have been stuck on a failed print, lift it up. Ideal, very ideal. That is the bit that comes with the printer, and you stick that on and you stick your bits on top. But I don't know, you're only going to get ultraviolet light from the top, not from underneath. So if you raise it up a bit, in my mind, you get some from the bottom and some from the top. Anyway, look at that, printed that all by myself. Never used it. Right, to remove a print. Now, I take it off, and this will be full of print. First thing I do, once it comes off the printer, before it goes in the wash and cure, is wipe any excess off, because you will get excess. Now, you could leave it in a tray and let it drain, or you could wipe it off. But any excess you can get off saves it going in to the wash and cure and contaminated your IPA. So if you get most of it off with a bit of polyroll, good. And also always rest this bottom edge of your plate on something firm when you're scraping, because if you don't, you will knock it out of square. If this edge is on the bottom there and you scrape down, you're not going to make your plate go out of square. So it's a nice little tip, and it does work. Oh, well, I've got some pictures of that. This is a plate straight off the machine. As you can see, it's full up with barrels and a wall. And you can see the resin coming off at the bottom there. Now, on this type of print, I would leave this for a few minutes, let it drain down. I would wipe, if you look on the other side, you will see resin on top. It sits on top. It's not very viscous, so it just sits there. Or it's too viscous. Yeah, it's too viscous. Is it? One of them. So wipe it all off with a bit of poly roll. That will save going in to your resin tank, to your IPA. Now, get a scraper, and all you do, because these are on little rafts, these edges are raised. On your scraper, just go along, gently scrape all these barrels off. I mean, this will be going in the wash first, but when you want to take them off, scrape it off, and the job's a good one. There we go. That's that same print on my DIY turntable. Sits on there. Put it on. I would give that probably 3 or 4 minutes. It wouldn't need any more than that, and that will be cured. And just to prove a point, there's that bit of wall. There's some barrels. First thing I do is coat of grey primer, brings out any defects, so you'll know for next time if something's gone wrong. And I always put a strip of double-sided tape down. Stick the rough bit is at the bottom because that's the way it was stood up. So stick it in, spray it, and then turn it over, rub the bottom. All done.